Whereas at the beginning of the year we would just write a story and illustrate it and keep it as that. Towards the end of the year we talk more about publishing, and you take a draft, and you take that draft and you make it into something even better. Well, first grade we're just trying to give them some opportunities to use technology, so get them used to laptops because they'll be using those a lot more in upper grades.
All our lives we've been singing and playing songs by other people, and it was fun to make our own songs. But since we didn't want too much reggae music, we added some softer tracks like Delicate Piano.
Once we do the arranging piece, then I turn it over to the traditional notation, and there are other programs that actually have them dragging whole notes and half notes and quarter notes onto the staff, and they actually become the composers themselves.
I can teach this to so many people, so if I show this to a friend or something, they can be like, whoa, that's awesome, how'd you do this? And I could tell them how you can do all these things to the different tracks.
I think the point of this class is learning that it's not about whether or not you think that the art is perfect or really high quality or not, but whether or not you think that you can convey a theme or at least explain the theme.
Well, mine is how we're becoming closer into the future and everything's becoming more clear for us now, and we're not children anymore. So it's like each stepping stone is like a year, a day, just a step into the future.
Oh, so the words over here just explain how we decided to change our pictures and why, and also what tools we used.
It's also about understanding the concepts behind the art, not just what you see. And from this class, I mean, we've learned how to do that more.
It's not just instinct. It's not just going with the flow. They really have some tools and skills, and they can do something that actually feels like true art that is meaningful.
Well, so much of what we do nowadays does deal with technology and working with computers, but there's a lot of satisfaction to be gained from working with your hands, and there are a fair amount of students that will be doing jobs with their hands, whether they become surgeons or skilled laborers or doing something else creative in their later life.
Okay, so this is alabaster. It's one of the rocks that you carve. It's like
Really easy
lower.
to carve.
Yeah, it's a lot softer than granite, so we don't have to use power tools or have to worry about the silica getting in our lungs. It's a lot safer and easier.
It gets kind of frustrating because in your mind, in the beginning, you have this perfect, gorgeous sculpture and you think it's going to happen just like that, but it takes a lot of time. And sometimes you'll chip off something and you get really frustrated because then you have to change your idea a bit.
Our studios are open during the day. Some students come in during free blocks and lunch periods to work on things, and I think that's a really good atmosphere to create. It allows them to sort of work on their own time and to work on their own ideas.
And things that we used to teach whole class, like, okay kids, look up front, I'm going to show you how to do this. We don't do that anymore. You tell one kid, oh, this is how you do this, and within 5 minutes, the whole class knows how to do it. So there's so much less time needed for the instruction that we used to do with technology because they're already applying it. They apply it and they just run with it.
Teachers have been teaching using Inspire for a while now in elementary, middle school, and even high school. And I think kids have seen these presentations and they understand the power of that kind of software. And in 6th grade, they learn the skills to use Inspire, but they learn it in the context of creating projects.
We had this Mesopotamia project where we would make a small museum about Mesopotamia, and it was a group activity. So every day our homework was to fill out a reflection sheet. So it was just, how are you doing? How do you feel like you did? How are your classmates doing? And what do you feel like you can improve on?
I hadn't done a project like this before. I have done other video projects with 5th graders, but this was a different type of project in that they were going to be in the videos themselves. Well, in a group situation, there's always students who are going to want to put in more effort than others, and it's really a good opportunity for students to learn to compromise and learn how to make the group work, because at the end we have to get the project done.
We didn't really like how it was turning out, so as a group
we kind of decided to do some of the things differently, and I think that really helped, having a group.
You can listen to other people's ideas too, not just yours, and so you can decide which one's better or which one you like.
When kids can feel uninhibited about expressing their feelings, expressing their ideas, all kinds of great projects and all kinds of great work can be accomplished.
So social learning is something that we all naturally have. It's a propensity, it's how we function, it's how we've progressed and thrived.
I like on the iPad we got to pick some apps, and one of the apps was Evernote, and it's this app where you can take notes in class.
It's been really helpful to have just learn that way. I think it's a lot easier. For example, if someone says, oh, I was sick this day, could you please share the notes from that day? You can basically share it, and people will know more because you're adding to someone else's notes.
I think it's important because then it's like you're not on your own almost. You kind of have many people almost helping you.
What I do believe is that these tablets will become a major part of just the educational platform. It's a very intense way of learning, and as Daniel Moore said, some of these kids, this is how they've learned to learn, through their phones, through the internet, through their tablets. So it's a natural way, I think, to grab their attention, and it's a natural way for them to organize their thoughts.
I came up with the idea thinking about the Apple Store and how they have the Genius Bar and how that makes it a really fun place to go and ask questions and clear up any confusions. And so in the classroom I thought I could apply that, seeing as I always had a few geniuses anyway, and why couldn't more kids be geniuses?
If I don't know how to use an iMovie, I can just look at the board and see who is good at an iMovie and just go and talk to them.
At the beginning of the year, I didn't know much about Scratch, but somebody taught me a few things because I asked them about something because I was making a project.
I'm a genius at Scratch, Pixton, and Sam.
We are the geniuses and we can help you.
The primary skill that we're trying to develop is problem solving. The ability to look at a problem, do some research, brainstorm among themselves to come up with ideas, identify a way of picking the best of the ideas. That's a skill that can be transferred to any subject, and brainstorming is something that they often do in working with groups.
As opposed to creating an awareness video, I decided to propose a solution. And so what I did was I decided to reinvent the storm drain and make it more complex than the basic iron grate, so it therefore is more effective in collecting the smaller pieces that are polluting the waters.
I've always been a project-based teacher, and in the past few years I'm taking it up a notch with this challenge-based learning, which is project-based learning, but in addition, they have to create a product at the end. They can't just do the research and not inform people.
Challenge-based learning isn't just like any problem. You have to do something that's a real problem that has to be fixed.
You know, the one thing I think that the field work allows them to do is they're conducting science, and not science in a cookbook fashion where you're following a series of steps, where you're just following directions and then making observations. They have to look at evidence, they have to try to make their own hypotheses. Now they're taking an actual image, so when they get back their data, it's much more authentic.
The iPads were really, really helpful on this field trip. We used them to take notes and take pictures, and they were able to geotag on the map so that when we came back after the field trip for our projects, it was really easy to sort of locate where they were.
Learning by doing is the best way you can learn. And by doing field trips like this, it gets kids into it and motivated to learn about it and get them really interested in it. And so I think it's just the best way to educate kids.
Well, I think it's one of the philosophies we share as a faculty, is when students have some measure of choice in what they learn, they're going to be more engaged and they're going to take more from the experience.
Especially as you get older, when you're a senior and you're kind of looking past high school and high school subjects, and you're kind of thinking about the future and what you want to do in life. It's really nice to be able to take what you're learning in school and applying it to things out in the real world. Just kind of
because that gets us more engaged.
I remember one thing that happened to me recently was in my ancient Greece class. We were talking about the Parthenon and the architecture of the Parthenon, and I kind of just was inspired to go home, and I had this software at home too, so I modeled part of the Parthenon at home just for fun, looking more closely at what it meant to see like the inner geometry of it, because I was building it myself.
So the reason I do this is it fills a need. This opportunity for students to engage in these hands-on projects and engage in collaboration, it's one of the best sort of culminating kind of activities where they can use what they've learned throughout school, throughout science, or whatever, and really put it all into play.
Well, first we started with the idea of a fairy tale, then I taught the different components of fairy tales, and then they wrote a rough draft and we edited and they brainstormed with different students in the classroom, so it was quite a process.
And then when Lisa told me she wanted to create books, I was thinking, well, where better to create a book than right on iPhoto? All the kids would have access to it on their accounts. We'd be able to draw and put pictures in that would accompany the great writing they did in class.
Sometimes I grab a pencil and write straight away, but sometimes it's just I want to get more of an idea into my head, so if I think of something, I keep digging deep into my mind and try and find more information, more details.
To be a writer is to incorporate stories and humor and enjoyment into what you want to say.
I definitely think we've become better writers through this process of fairy tales.
Today what they're doing is they're working on a blog that we have. It's a response blog. It's called Treehouse Voices.
So we found that with the blogging, with the dropping yourself into a picture, it really allowed them to be more creative, to be more flexible in their thinking. So they could apply what they learned in social studies, what they learned in science, to their blogging topic.
Blogging helps me become a better writer because you could comment on it and then you really get to know how your writing is, and then you can change it in different ways, and you really get to know people's opinions about what kind of writing you do.
So many people are reading it, you kind of want to do your best.
When kids are always just writing with pencil and paper, they never really know where it's going. They know they're writing it for their teacher, but here they know their parents are going to read it, their classmates are going to read it, possibly other schools and other kids. So I think it gives them more of a purpose.
It's great, if we can inspire students to work outside of the classroom. Usually those are our most successful students, the ones that do more than what is simply required for the class.
So the goal is for us to have students with the skills to not just to be schooled and educated. It's to publish and give back, to own the content. So if they are studying, they're taking ownership to the level that they can actually contribute to the dialogue. We want to see students start to move along that continuum. Right now, a lot of kids are consuming. They're consuming media. We want to turn them into producers and start giving back to the web and recognizing that they have that power and that control.
Kind of what we're trying to do is not give kids the same education that we had when we were young, because our education prepared us for our future, but we need to do things a whole different way to prepare kids for the future that they're going to have.